Today we're talking to Rob Greenstein, co-founder of the Great Yellow Brick Company, South Africa's exclusive operator of Lego certified stores, founded in 2017 with his wife Hayley and partner Greg Berg. They've grown from one store in Sandton to 6 locations nationwide while opening their 7th one next week. Rob, nice to have you here, man.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about crazy season that's obviously happening right now. We've got Black Friday coming up. But let's start with the journey of Lego. Like, what made you decide to go through all the struggles that you probably had to go through to bring this into the country?
Well, look, we're very fortunate to be involved with one of the most, if not the most fabulous brand in the world. It started back in about 2014. We spotted that there was a gap in the market. Lego was obviously in the country. You could buy it at many multi-branded toy specialists. But we spotted the fact that there weren't standalone stores. These have been rolled out overseas. I've got a bit of a background in retail from luxury goods and some other well-known brands. And we managed to get a meeting with them. They weren't ready for our market. We're a smaller market globally. But things went quite well in terms of the relationship. And by 2017, they invited us to tender for the license for the branded channel in South Africa. And cut a long story short, we opened our first store in 2018 in Sandton City. So since then, we've grown quite nicely. We followed the store opening in July 2018 with our online platform about a month after that. And sitting here, 7 years later, we are 6 stores nationally. And like you mentioned, opening 7th in Somerset West next week.
Crazy. I'm actually quite interested to know, what was the market response like when you actually launched that first store?
It was huge, and it was more than we could have anticipated. I think when you've got a brand like this, you underestimate the fanfare and the appeal. I can equate it almost to Apple launching the second iteration of the iPhone, and you would look in the news and see people queuing in Paris and in New York. When we opened Sandton, we realized what a following Lego has and what a wonderful brand it is to create and build on that following. We actually talk about this in our current state, in that Lego's very much almost become a passion product rather than a toy product. So obviously we want children, we're inherently a toy company, but we've just grown to touch on all these passion points, and it just seems to grow more and more. It's wonderful.
It's almost like toys for everyone, because you know how many times I've gotten a gift that is a Lego set, and the one I got was a bonsai tree, which you would normally think, it's made for kids, but there's so many different SKUs that there's so many applicable to your everyday adult as well. And there's nostalgia built into it. There's all kinds of emotions built into it. It's such a beautiful brand with such a wide variety of different emotions that kids evoked when you actually walk through the aisles, and you can look at, for example, the Star Wars series, which brings back a sense of nostalgia when you potentially were a kid. And then you've got all the different cars that you can build, which is more for I remember buying my brother-in-law, he's a speed fanatic. I ended up buying him a Ducati model, for Christmas, and he loved it. It's just the whole family can have fun with this, and it's so unique. It's very seldom that you get a product that the whole family can actually end up enjoying.
And it's become acceptable. So I think it's the wonderful thing about having the branded stores. It's no longer a toy shop that you've got to walk into to go and look at a toy. You're going in and looking at a hobby, passion point type of product. We actually just recently wrote a blog article for our website with this whole kind of move to being kidults. So, I'm getting a little bit older than I see myself. You're a little bit younger than me, but it's very acceptable for a guy in his 30s to walk in with his young kid. I spotted a picture of you've got a young one, and you buy them a set of Duplo. But then, like you say, the Lego's now an official sponsor for Formula One, and you're following Mercedes for argument's sake, and you get yourself a little Formula One car. It's only $4.99, but you can build it with your kid and you can put it in your study. I mean, I'm looking around the studio and I can see Lego on the walls here at some point. It almost should be, because it'll decorate it. Some of the other passion points we're moving towards is there's a huge move towards art sets. Currently, we've got a very big Van Gogh rendition of Van Gogh's Flowers.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't matter if you're a speed freak or a botanicals fan, or if you're a Star Wars fan, whatever it is. There's something that anyone I think would want to have in their home. It's beautiful to have on the wall.
And what's crazy to think is that they almost went bankrupt a few decades ago.
3 times.
Yeah.
So, look, I think from a business perspective, if you wanted to kind of go through the technicalities and the business side of analytics, yes, it's been a very, very interesting journey for Lego over the last 25 years. They've had some really remarkable leaders in their organization, very dynamic CEOs, and they've managed to pivot and change and do some really wonderful things with their brand. Because, like as you say, if they just remained, I think, a purely based toy company like they were in the 1980s, they probably wouldn't be around. And they've just grown from strength to strength.
And now the opportunities of growth is actually endless because you can tap into almost any criteria of, like you were saying, you now got the art section, the art
Yeah.
series going. You've got you partnering with all kinds of movie characters and
Yes.
series, and so you addressing motor fanatics with the Formula One series and the motorbike example that I used earlier. So it's almost endless. So the growth, the horizon is quite wide.
It is, and there's a few parts to it. Number one is we still want kids to play with Lego.
Sure.
We're a toy company. And we also want to create the fans of the future. So we want, the 10-year-olds or the 5-year-olds who are playing with it as a toy, we need to touch on their passion points for later. And we're seeing a little bit of that roll out. I mean, I'm moving into my late 40s now, and there's some cool things coming out. For instance, Gizmo from the Gremlins, or we've just launched the Goonies set. So these are movies maybe you were a little bit young for when they came out, but they're quite retro. Lego are very clever on touching on those points. A very big move they've made over the last 3-4 years has been around gaming, because we understand that gaming is obviously a huge passion point and has a huge following. So, in the last year, they've partnered with brands like Fortnite. They've announced a partnership with Pokemon coming next year. There's Animal Crossing and Sonic and Super Mario. So, like I say, there's more and more passion points, and it's very important to stay relevant, because something may interest you. You may be a Formula One fan. There are a lot of people out there that don't like Formula One. There are a lot of people out there that don't like sport in general. But what are the other things that they're going to follow? Music. We've got a piano in the range. Actually plays music. It connects to your phone. It's been around for a little while. It's a fabulous set. So these are all clever things that they're doing.
It's so interesting, man. But I'm so curious to know, when you opened this first location in Sandton, which is a great spot, by the way.
Thank you.
Walk me through those early stages of setting it up. Like, I mean, stress levels, anxiety. Can this work? Will it work? How's the market going to respond? Just curious to know what went through your mind, what challenges you faced in those early stages.
So I think what can happen, and I've seen it with brands over the last 20, 25 years that I've been dealing with various brands. There's the excitement factor. There's the factor of overselling an idea to yourself that it's going to be successful. And then there's the being pragmatic and looking at the raw nuts and bolts. And yes, Lego is a fabulous brand. I mean, it doesn't need an explanation. But to make a business work in a location like Sandton, which obviously has various factors on rental and staff and volumes and margin and all these things you need to analyze, you've got to be quite precise about what you're doing. So I think for us, where we had experience in brands, but not particularly in the toy segment, there was a lot of thinking around how successful could this be? And I mean, I'll share a little tidbit, which will come quite surprising to you and possibly to the people listening or watching this. After we had traded for the first year, we actually looked back. My partner, Greg, who comes from a very strong finance background, and I've got a little bit of finance from last year as well, but we looked back at our technical financial statements and things, and we realized, sure, but this isn't as strong as we thought it was. What do we need to do here to make it better? And that's where you have to get a little bit away from the excitement factor that you've got a cool brand to what are the nuts and bolts that are making my business tick? And retail can be quite, I won't say straightforward, but obviously the things you look at in retail are quite are succinct. They, cost of occupation, the cost of running the store with staff, the cost of all the other bits and pieces that go in, and it can be quite easy to analyze. And like I say, after a year, we realized, sure, but we're making lots and lots of sales. But from a business perspective, is this really as slick as it should be? And we had to do some serious thinking. That I would almost say a year in was tougher than a year out, because we had to work out, we've got one store, we want to open more. How do we make this a sustainable model? And the listeners may be thinking, Sure, but come on, it's Lego. It is Lego, but don't think it's that easy. In a retail space that has lots and lots of costs to it, retail is inherently very operationally cost intense.
I can imagine.
It required a lot of thinking.
Indirectly, what you're saying, you generated a lot of revenue, but it doesn't sound like it was that profitable as you ideally wanted it to be, right?
You're correct. Lego was really happy with us. The execution of the store was world class. The project managers from overseas were super happy with us. They used some of our stuff that we had done for rollout as best practice. We were very happy with the store, very happy staff complement, lots of sales. But I think that we were doing things slightly wrong in terms of what you should be doing for a business. So there are things that the consumer coming into our Lego stores now won't notice, but we had to make some changes.
Yeah, it's almost like you've got a lot of variables to control because one, you have to keep Lego happy and you have to meet their expectations in some way, shape, or form. Then at the same time, you have to focus on the consumer's expectations of Lego. You have to manage that.
Correct.
And then you have the business logistics and all the cost that goes into the business, and you still have to make all of that profitable.
Totally. And I come at this from a brand perspective. You know, we are partners with Lego globally. It's really important for us, and I'll almost say first and foremost, that if you walk into the Lego store in Sandton, that you should get the same experience that you would get if you walked into the store in Shanghai, London, New York, Paris, Istanbul, wherever it is, because from a brand perspective, we need to maintain its integrity. But then you've got to deal with the local parameters of running the business. And what works for our consumer, how we keep our staff complement happy, how we motivate our staff complement, how we motivate sales in the store. All those good things.
Very interested to understand how you've overcome those challenges in order to roll out more stores. So we've spoken about the challenges. What did you implement within the business? If you're open to sharing some of the stuff, and you're welcome to obviously hold, some secrets. But just trying to understand how did you overcome those challenges in the rollout of all these new stores?
So I think the biggest thing has actually been the relationships with malls. So we're fortunate, again, we've been in retail in my other businesses for a number of years, and we've got very good relationships with the various landlords. And I think it started with that. And again, we're fortunate with a wonderful brand, and the landlords want the brand in their mall. So there came the conversation around partnership, around what do we do to make us sustainable, that's meaningful for the landlord and meaningful for us, that the landlord has a tenant in their building that is worthwhile for them to be there, but it's also worthwhile for us to be there. And that is quite honest. And I would say almost always we've landed on good ears, and we've found good partners in the landlords. That's probably the biggest part of it.
So just transparent communication and conversations around what both parties need to survive and grow.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think in any negotiation/conversation, I think if there's sincere and honest communication, and you can get to a point where you both understand exactly what you want. And I always say, I like the point of everyone walks away happy. I know there's also the view that sometimes a deal gets done and both parties walk away feeling like the deal is slightly better. I don't like that, because I feel like there could be resentment later. I can't say that hasn't happened in our space. We sometimes have had to settle for that. But generally, we try and do business in the way that we want to be treated.
I'm big on communication. I have this philosophy or quote in my head based on my own experiences and the data that I've collected. And 90% of businesses fail for these two reasons. There's obviously 10% margin for nuances, but I think 90% of businesses fail, especially between partners. It's either lack or bad communication and greed.
I would agree on that.
So once you have a partner that's got your best interest at heart, that's not greedy, that's focused on the long term, the second challenge is to focus on transparent levels of communication, assertive communication, saying what you want to say and not what you think the other person wants to hear, and getting real true to yourself and what you want to express. And the other party then having to receive that in a non-emotional way and understand that, what is said for a bigger constructive, almost like a picture, as opposed to trying to get personal with someone or trying to get selfish. And I think that's when the biggest partnerships end up breaking down. And I also see that's when the most partnerships end up succeeding, is when those two boxes are ticked.
it goes with any relationship. And that goes down to the relationship that we have with the landlords. It goes down to the relationship that we have with the global office for Lego. It goes down to our partnership. And I think that you can I like to draw analogies in the world. I really do. I do it all the time. It's the same as having a partner in your life. You know, you may have a wife, a husband, a spouse, whatever it is. If there isn't sincere and honest communication at some point in time, the relationship will start to ripple and those fabrics will tear apart. And this is going very back to the beginning. You get this great idea. Let's open a Lego store. How do you make it sustainable going forward? And just to talk about those relationships, we're very fortunate. We've got good relationships with the malls, and we deal with the most fabulous partner. We're obviously a local entity in South Africa that runs the Lego certified stores, but Lego as a global company who's a huge multinational, they also have a wonderful ethos. So we're very fortunate to have found a partner like that to work with. And at the moment, we're very happy. I mean, don't think that there aren't challenges.
Sure.
We've got lots of challenges, logistics, marketing, finances. That they always present. There's someone in Lego. She always says the same thing to us. This year's had these challenges. Wait for next year. It'll have different challenges, and you have to roll with those challenges.
100%. And that's so true. Every year, just the more you grow, the more it's almost like every level's got its own challenges, really.
Correct. Yeah.
It's like life is like a game. Business is like a game. Every year as you grow, it's just a new level. And that level comes with a new boss that you have to defeat.
I was going to say, and sometimes it feels like Space Invaders and you're not sure which way to go.
Exactly, 100%. So you've got the stores, and you mentioned that you've also got an online store running parallel to that. Just out of curiosity, what percentage of revenue do you see through the stores? What percentage of revenue do you see online? What is that split like?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, just in terms of maths, the splits obviously has changed as we've opened more stores because online's percentage will reduce. But I mean, online's a very big channel for us. It's certainly, if I look at our existing 6 brick and mortar stores and online, so call it 7 channels. Next week we'll have 8 channels because we're opening Somerset, but let's forget Somerset for the moment. If I look at the 7 channels, online generally ranks between number 1 and number 3.
Wow.
We're fortunate. Sandton is a very strong mall, so obviously we'll have quieter periods, but we run good campaigns. When you come to season, Sandton's a very, very strong mall for us, the strongest mall in the country.
And what is contributing to this growth, especially online and in the stores? Like, what kind of marketing are you guys doing? Marketing at all? Like, what does that look like?
So again, we need to look at this in the Lego context. We're obviously a very established brand. Lego also, we release new product all the time. So every month there's something new happening. There's very high seasonality with Lego, actually. So every year we have a number of SKUs or sets that exit our assortment, and a number of sets that come into the assortment. And that helps drive for us. So yes, we do a lot of marketing. In the digital space, we rely very heavily on Google. Our feeling at the moment is Google still massively outweighs Meta.
Okay.
We do play around on 1 or 2 of the other search engines as well, but again, it's not Google's just really the lion's share for us with paid advertising of SEO work. So I think that's obviously the marketing thing for e-com. We also try and market for many kids' activities and promotions that are happening in the store to try and keep things interesting. The problem with humans in general is that our attention span wanes quite quickly. So to keep our consumers and our good customers interested and excited, we have to continually think of new hooks and exciting things to bring them into store and bring them onto our website. So again, going back to the Lego way of doing things, lots of new sets every single month almost through the year. And we also try and have unique promotions. Again, in the branded channel, we can have exclusive gifts that we use. We're going to talk around that with Black Friday because it's a very important part of our marketing is the use of exclusive gifts with purchase that can't be purchased and can only be obtained with a purchase in a branded store.
I'm going to touch on that in a second. From a marketing point of view, so you obviously always bringing out new ideas. There's always new concepts, always new products, always new things to get excited about. I suppose that wouldn't mean much unless there was a way to communicate that to the public and to the consumers.
Fair enough.
So I think my question is, what vehicles do you use to communicate that? You did mention Google Ads. Is that obviously safe to assume that you're using that to communicate to the public?
We use that substantially. We're also really good about obtaining our clients' information. So not just online, because obviously online you have to kind of give us your information if you're going to buy from us, because we've got to ship the thing to you.
Mm.
But in store, we've got certain mechanisms to really try and increase the volume of customer data. We also, because we're a reasonably new retail company for Lego itself, we placed a lot of emphasis on the type of architecture we used. So we were very big on the omni-channel type of or way of thinking. So our systems in store and our systems online are completely linked. So we build up a customer history profile that, if you're buying in store now and you go online for the next 3 purchases and you come back into store, or you move to the Cape and you then go to Canal Walk and you purchase there, we've got a complete history of you and over your full life cycle with us. So email is still a very big one for us, especially for fans of Lego who want to be informed when something that's been hard to find is back in stock, or when something very exclusive or sought after is launching. Again, I want to kind of try and draw an analogy, but I think just the principle is that if you're a very keen on something, you've got your hobby, cycling, gym, photography, whatever it is, you want to know about the new hot thing, you're going to sign up for a newsletter. And it has to be a meaningful newsletter. So we do send out a lot of email communication, but like, for instance, this Black Friday, we're going to launch a new SKU. We'll talk about it just now. When that launches and on the day, if you've forgotten about it because you're a busy guy and you wake up and it's top of your email, you go, oh, sherbet, and I really want that. It draws you in. So we still use email quite a lot. I think the international trend is that email is actually falling off a lot, and people are moving towards WhatsApp shopping and I don't think SMS, but more direct medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, so email is still important for us. Google's very important for us.
So I must say, to touch on the email subject, the average store's revenue is about 20 to 30% from email, if done correctly, and if you have a substantial database.
Yeah.
And I don't have objective evidence to prove that is declining. However, I think when people talk about email and they talk about email marketing, I wonder if it's more related to cold outreach or almost like related to speaking to people you've never spoken to before. But when it's actually people who's interested in your product, people who actually have an emotional connection with what you're doing,
yes,
I think email and SMS can be very powerful. And in the scenarios where they're not powerful, it's usually when you don't have that relationship with the customer, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think, and I think it can be difficult to create that relationship with a customer with those types of medium like email and WhatsApp, because they can then they actually become more annoying. It's like, I don't really want to shop for that now, and stop irritating me, because there's so much, we know this, there's so much electronic stuff flying at us all the time. And that's the whole point. So you can't be everything you want to be to everybody.
Exactly.
It's your customers who want you.
It's almost like a conversation with a friend. There's certain friends you want to have, conversations with, and you can have hours worth of conversation with them. And then there's some people who you can only tolerate for 30 minutes.
It's like trying to discuss the Springboks performance last weekend with my wife. She's totally disinterested.
Exactly.
But if we were talking about, I don't know, something else that we both got a common interest in.
And that's how I see email and SMS. And I see it in the exact same way, is that if someone is truly interested in what you're selling and they've built a relationship with you and there's an emotional connection, and there's a community kind of effect, I believe email and SMS can be extremely powerful. But when that connection is not there and it's like, this is on sale, buy it if you want, it can still be powerful, but it will definitely not be as powerful.
I think where guys get it wrong on Black Friday is they know it's Black Friday, they know they've got to have an offering, but they don't think through the flow of what they're doing in their messaging to get the customer there, and it starts to become quite noisy. So you get an email about TVs, for argument's sake, and I use the TV reference a lot because they irritate me, because everyone wants to try to sell TVs, and then you click on the link, it doesn't really take you to what you want. It's not that special, and it's difficult to understand. So we try to be quite clear. If we're going to launch an exclusive set on Black Friday and there's going to be a gift with purchase with it, the email's clear. Here is the Star Trek set. It's launching on Black Friday. Here's the price. There's this gift that goes with it, and these are the other things we're offering on Black Friday. Simple.
And when you click through, you go straight to that page where that product is available.
Doesn't it blow you away? I'm sure you see this, that you will see sponsored links. I will search for something. Like, for instance, I need a piece of technology for the store we're opening in Somerset West, and the local supplier doesn't have it. Search for it. Do you know how many sponsored links I clicked on that took me to generic pages and took me to pages with nothing related to what I was actually searching for? And I get that it's only R2.50 a click or R3.75 a click, why would they even waste the £2.50? I don't understand. And why haven't they thought through what the consumer's doing? So, I mean, if I'm clicking on, I needed an iPad cover. We use a robust iPad cover in the store. There were 15 clicks I clicked on. It just took me nowhere. I had to kind of go to the third page of Google to find the thing on a site that wasn't even listed.
So interesting you say that. I think there's companies like with big budgets, for example, Temu and Shein, who probably don't really care whether you convert or not. It's purely just to pixelate you with a cookie to get you on the site and then retarget you with some other stuff.
Maybe.
But again, it comes down to there's a lot of wastage in those budgets. Like it could definitely be more effective. But I think when you a big company like Amazon or Takealot sometimes or Shein and Temu, it's all just getting people on the site and then from there retargeting and staying top of mind. Because maybe you didn't get the iPad cover, but for all you know, because of the fact that they've cookied and pixelated you, you're looking for something else for, maybe a Valentine's Day gift or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And before you know it, the algorithm has picked up that you're looking for it, and one of their products just fit perfectly into your life. And I think that is what the big strategy of these bigger corporations is like. We're not too worried about that initial sale, but we just want to get people in our ecosystem, into our algorithm, so that we can stay top of mind.
Yeah.
But that's obviously with more bigger brands. So we've been touching on Black Friday and like fringing on that conversation. So I'm quite curious to understand what you did last year, what worked, what didn't work, what lessons you learned, and what are you doing differently this year?
So I'm going to answer some of that and some of it I'm not going to, because I don't want to give away our Black Friday specials just yet.
100%.
But depending when this is aired. But look, I think that we've learned over the last several years in a few spaces to do with Black Friday. And I'm going to possibly repeat myself a few times in this conversation, but I think the very most important principle for Black Friday is whatever you do has to be authentic and it has to be meaningful to your customer. I have my own things that I like to look at on Black Friday. And I found the last 3 years, I get up in the morning, I kind of get my iPad, I'm probably still in bed, it's with a coffee, and I start browsing for the things that I'm interested in. And the specials don't really resonate with me, and I don't actually end up spending any money. So going back to where I started there, I think that you've got to make sure that if you've got product X and you're intending it to be for your customer, make sure that it matches what your customer is wanting. And that goes in terms of price, and it goes maybe in terms of promotion that you're offering. So I think that there are a couple of things for Black Friday that are really important. I think that if you're going discount heavy, I think your discounts have to be right and they have to be different, and they can't just be the same as what's been offered before, which can be really hard. If you're a clothing retailer, people know that at the end of season, certain clothes go on sale, so they get used to some discounts. You can't offer something that you've offered last month because you were trying to drive revenue. I was having a poor August, so I took widget X and I put widget X on less 20%, and I'm going to offer the same thing again on Black Friday. So what we try and do, and this has been successful for us over the last few years, and it might be a little hint as to what's coming, we look for things that haven't been on sale before. Now, we're fortunate because, again, we deal with one product and it's a unique product. And because we're the branded channel, we've got multiple products in our stores that are exclusive to Lego branded channels. So, for instance, you can buy like a little Star Wars, what we call brickhead, or keychains, or things like that. And as Lego fans who are listening to this will know, bigger sets. So, for instance, last year, what we did is we took one quite large set that was a long life exclusive to branded channels, so you could never buy it from another Lego stockist. And we put that set on sale. We had a limited quantity. It was a loss leader. We didn't make money off it. It sold out in the same day. And
what was that?
That was the Lego Titanic. It was a 12,999 SKU. So it's a big, pricey SKU.
Was that the Black Friday price?
That's the full retail. It had never been on sale before. And we put it on sale on Black Friday, and we put it on less 30%, which means it was a loss leader. We didn't make money on it. I won't share the quantity we had, but we had fixed a quantity that we were going to sell. We sold them all out within a day and a half, and the stores who had a few left over sold them out by the Sunday. And that's because it had been in circulation for 3 years. It is in the most fantastic set. It's really sought after. and it's a real deal.
Mm.
It's a real deal. Yes, you could get it with we've got a loyalty program and stuff like that. You could use some loyalty points in that, but never to that kind of discount. So when you woke up on the Friday morning and you saw that, you're like, sherbet, I was going to buy my wife an iPad. She can continue to read the print paper. I'm buying myself a Lego Titanic. That's what happened.
I think I felt that way I think you had a Friends set. So I'm a big Friends TV series fan.
Yes, that was a little while ago we had that set.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I been eyeing it out. I never got it because I can't remember what the price was at the time. Obviously,
it's about 3,500 rand.
Yeah. The thing is also I've got kids in the house and these things don't last very long. Like before you know it, half the set's broken and whatnot. But I sat there and I was like so curious, actually so keen to get it. And I promise you now, for example, I probably looked at it like 3 or 4 times. I was like, oh, should I spend the money? Should I not? Where am I going to keep it? Can I put it in the office? Should I put it in my workspace at home?
Yeah.
And long story short, if I woke up on Black Friday and that was off discounted at 20%, I would have instantly either ran down to the store or bought it online.
And that's what you want, because you want ideally to pick up the impulse purchase that then doesn't affect your season. And remember the whole premise of Black Friday. Black Friday, first Friday after Thanksgiving. Let's kickstart the retail season. That's where it comes from. It's an American concept. Let's get the engines revving. Let's go. So you don't want to do something necessarily that's going to steal from your Christmas sales, given that Christmas is far enough away. So if it's impulse like that set that you would have gone for, less 30, I hook you in, you buy it, it's great. I've got you now as a customer. You go home, you build that, and you think, sure, but that was amazing. And I was going to keep it for Christmas and give it to my wife, but I built it with my kids on the Sunday. You know what? I'm going to go back for Christmas and buy my wife the Lego Orchid. 1,000 rand set. It's but it brings you back, and that's what we hope to achieve. The other thing that we do, and that's worked successfully well, worked particularly well for us as Lego, is the unique launch on Black Friday. So that Titanic, as an example, launched 3 or 4 years ago on Black Friday. Because we ran other promos with our loyalty program around points, it was attractive even at 12,500 rand to pick it up on that day, because people would have realized if they don't pick it up on that day, they won't get it later. So for instance, this year, as I mentioned earlier, we've just announced, I think it was last week, that there's a USS Star Trek Enterprise Captain Kirk set coming.
So cool.
Very cool. I've seen the box already. It's very, very nice. And it comes with an exclusive Star Trek gift of purchase. Now, so yes, we've got some stuff on sale planned for Black Friday. And I'll talk about the stuff that's already on sale for Black Friday. The Black November misnomer, which I'm not a fan of. We'll talk about that as well just now. But let's just focus on the weekend. So we're going to have some stuff that you've never seen before on sale. And then we're going to have the attractive, we're launching this on this day, and we're going to make it attractive. We want you to purchase it over Black Friday. So we're going to incentivize you to do that. We're going to, maybe hook in more points, add a gift, and just make it more attractive. So those are kind of almost 2 avenues happening at the same time.
So taking what you've just said, how do you articulate that in the context of another business owner? Like, what is the lesson that you're trying to share there with them? Because I think every single business owner, when it comes to Black Friday, we might be a bit short-sighted of what it's actually all about. So just curious, taking what you just said, how do you contextualize that into a lesson for someone listening and watching now?
So go back to the word I used earlier when I started, authentic. Your offer needs to be authentic and it needs to be unique. And that is becoming harder and harder, because obviously retailers will gravitate towards just using a discount. But even if you're using a discount, gravitate towards using a discount that's unique or in a unique way. Find something you haven't done before and do that. I've got involvement in another retail business, which is more in the luxury goods side. And it's really hard because it's kind of more commoditized, and it's not like unique like a brand like Lego. So we've got to think about, what are we doing for that weekend? If you maybe it's something as simple as, I've got an apparel brand, I've got my own gym label, and you run an end of season clearance before less 20. Maybe you want to find something that's current. Your hot selling leggings that have sold really well, and for that day, offer a water bottle with it, or offer an extra 5%, or offer a Pilates mat that's very attractive and a nice product, and offer that at a super big discount. So you've got a loss leader with your good seller.
Mm.
It has to be unique. And I'm not saying it's easy to achieve. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
And Black Friday right now has become almost like some people's birthday month. I made a joke with someone else on the podcast recently, and I said, you get these guys or girls sometimes who goes, listen, it's my birthday month, and they just upbeat the whole month. They're celebrating the whole month. They're spoiling themselves. I'll buy this because it's my birthday month. And the Black Friday has become very similar in a way, where it's become this whole month thing. Like people are looking for deals almost from the 1st of November. My question to you is, how have you guys mitigated that into your strategy? Is it something you do or don't do?
It is something we do. I personally agree to it reluctantly. Let me give you my opinion on the Black November as the big mass retailers. I think one of the very big retailers actually called it that for a while. I think that, again, it starts to lack a little bit of authenticity. Also, do you want to be the guy? Do you want to be the customer that takes the first deal, uses your disposable income? You now have used it by the 10th of November. You don't have more disposable income on the 25th of November or 28th of November, and planning for Christmas. So the potential subconscious or conscious fear of missing out of the really good deal on Black Friday might hold you back. So I think, and again, just my opinion, I think that it is important some ways to participate for the Black November. We do it. We do it in a considered way. So we start offering some things that, again, on special. We try and structure it that there's some clearance that we've maybe been sitting with, but there's something new and maybe an interesting, but not as interesting as we want it to be later. Because from what we've seen, and I was doing a little prep for this podcast before, and I was thinking about numbers and stats. What we've seen, the learning is, the chunk of it happens on the weekend. And it's not Black Friday. It's Black Friday weekend.
Yes.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday with Cyber Monday, especially if you've got a good online offering. So yes, you can definitely pick up some good business going through from the 1st of November. The real deal, the real party, still that weekend.
To come back to Black Friday, but also just specials in general and discounts in general, and then to the context of having retail presence and online, we see so many retailers potentially have, and especially with franchised retailers where there's a franchisor and a franchisee, and like often people have independent deals and they do a Black Friday special, for example, and then you click on the site, but you go, oh, it's not available on the site, it's only available in store, it's only, or vice versa. And from what I gather, like you guys, it's a complete holistic system. Whatever you find online, that's you'll find in store. And when you walk into a store, this is going to be everything that you saw is exactly going to be at the price that you saw it at.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the mistakes that you can make is frustrating your customers. And remember that where money is involved, where you're asking someone to open their wallet and share with you what they've worked hard for, it's quite easy for someone to place an emotional value on that, where they can get frustrated with you quite quickly. And I think rightfully so. So I think what you don't want to have is, you don't want to have a situation where you are a chain of food restaurants, and maybe the chain is 15 stores. You don't want to have a situation that one franchisee thinks, I'm going to offer a special on burgers today, and someone else is going to give away a free coffee with their omelette in the morning. Because you're going to get the guy walk into the restaurant in Waterfall, and he's going to go for breakfast, and he's going to get really irritated because that franchisee is offering burgers. He's like, dude, it's 9 o'clock. I don't want a burger. I want a coffee and an omelette.
Exactly.
So for us, from an omni-channel perspective, we've always taken the view to make sure that our offering in-store and online is almost identical. What we have done, though, is because we've got the opportunity with these very unique gifts, and I invite you to go onto our site and have a look at them, and come into our store and look at them, because this isn't intended to be a sales pitch, but they are very cool gifts. And especially if you are a fan of something like the Goonies set, there's a very unique Goonies set gift that's got a scene from the movie that you can't buy that set. So what we've done, especially like over Black Friday and coming into Christmas, is to compete also, let's say on an e-com side, is to keep certain gifts only for e-com. Because we feel that if you keep them only for store and not for e-com, what can happen is you can really frustrate your customer in Rustenburg, Potchefstroom, Springbok, Port Elizabeth.
And that also breaks their trust and credibility to the business.
Yeah. I think we work really hard at pleasing our customers.
Mm.
And customers, like I say, when they are spending their hard-earned rands, it's easy for them to say, but I'm giving you that. I've got a bit of a cynical view on the world. They say it's not the money, it's the principle. For me, the principle is measured by the money. The two things are linked. It can come across as slightly cynical, but I think it talks to the emotional, subconscious decision making that deal makers and consumers make when they're spending money. Because as soon as you're attributing value to something you're doing, you're saying, what am I getting back in the same value? And therein lies a complex relationship.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree. And I think so many people miss that completely. So Black Friday, you've had a couple of them under the belt now.
Yeah, we've had a few.
My question is, what is the one thing that's stressing you out the most on the day? Like, what is there a couple of things that you know that this is the things we have to get right this year? Or it could be, for example, tech stacks you're using, or it could be online crashing, the website crashing, or whatever. I don't know. You've obviously had a couple of these. What are the things that you're looking out for that you want to get 100% right?
So look, I'm the kind of person that there are things outside that I can't control. So I can't control if the payment gateway goes down. I'll be really angry and I'll be throwing things at walls, but I can't control that.
Yeah.
So I think what we're talking about here is what are the things that we can plan for. I think the biggest thing that we are always worried about is, have we planned the right items, the right products at the right price and the right volumes, especially for online. And we've got it wrong sometimes. And then what you don't want is, you don't want to have 50 of some items sitting in the storeroom after Black Friday, because that's also a problem. You've got capital tied up in that stock. So I think the biggest thing for me is, do we have enough, and have we planned correctly to respond to what our customers want? And then what stresses us a little bit on the day are the volumes amplified for that day. And it's, the customer, I've placed my order and I made a mistake with this address. And so the volume of everything ramps. It's not the volume of packing boxes. It's not the volume of the couriers taking. It's everything else that's keeping everyone happy.
Yeah. And I think I remember being back in the retail game, our biggest frustration was because we had stores, 28 of them. And the biggest frustration for us was, again, also planning the order quantity, like you just said, because you can't predict it sometimes. And sometimes you think this product's going to do exceptionally well, and then it's a mediocre hit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, that was okay, but not as much as we thought. Now you've got all this capital stuck in that product. Or it was the opposite, where you think, is this really going to work? And then it just shoots the lights out.
Yeah.
And the other big thing, and I think Takealot obviously every year has something similar happen to them, it's just crashing and going down from a service side. Is that something you've ever experienced at all from an online point of view?
No, we've been fortunate we haven't. We've had one or two minor little glitches, funnily enough, more with the card capturing in store over that weekend, more so than electronic payment gateways. I mean, I remember back, I'm giving away a little bit of my age. I was in my first job out of varsity, and I was a consultant at one of the banks. And my mom messaged me, because I come from a retail family, and she said, and it was on the 23rd of December, and she knew I was working at the bank that the issue arose, and she said, "Rob, do you know that the entire card payment system has fallen over for Bank X?" And I was like, and I was standing inside the head office of that bank, and I actually noticed, because I was on that floor, I was like, yeah, people are looking a little bit panicked. She said, "What's going on?" I was like, "I don't know what's going on. I can't do anything. I mean, I can go turn, nothing I could do." But I remember that, and that was, I think, in 2003, and that was a big problem. I mean, the central card processing system went down. But yeah, to answer your question, we haven't had those major issues. We partner with good pieces of good technology. Shopify, which is a big international platform. We've recently moved payment gateways, and that's why I've been invited onto this podcast. So I think it's important to mention that we've moved to Stitch. They seem to have been a very good partner for us. We've just recently moved. This will be our first Black Friday, but they seem to be quite organized, and we haven't had any latency or downtime or anything with them.
Well, touching on Shopify, I think, again, we're not sponsored by Shopify in any way, but the reality is that they allocate resources to your website and server as the traffic increases.
Yes.
And that's why you've never been down. And I asked you that question. And when you said you've never been down, in my mind, probably I went, you're probably on Shopify.
Yeah. The only thing is, I mean, it's happened twice, I think, in the last 5 years. Once was actually last month where Amazon Web Services went down. I don't think that's an Amazon problem. It was that's just a life problem.
Exactly.
As we're used to South Africans, the power station burnt down. So yeah, that could happen, and please, hopefully it doesn't. I think other than that, I think the systems are all good. Yeah.
And touching on Stitch, I've had a few people talk to me about either adding it to their payment gateway options or switching over. Have you noticed any difference at all since switching to Stitch or using Stitch? Just curious out of interest.
So one of the reasons we switched to Stitch was they offered a broader they had a broader offering in terms of payment options. So our previous payment gateway or our service provider, it didn't have Apple Pay, it didn't have Android Pay, which was an interesting one for us. We weren't sure how to measure that. And that was very attractive for us. Also, what we don't want to do, and we've tried this and made an error with it, or not made an error, but it hasn't really worked, where you have 2 or 3 payment gateways linked to your platform, and then a couple of them are below the fold line or too low down the fold line, and they don't really get used. So it almost becomes like, well, why am I doing this? And why am I managing another relationship with another service provider? It starts to become a bit of a hassle. What is interesting for us is moving over to Stitch is how quickly Apple Pay increased for us. And I think it's probably got also to do with the type of product that we sell. We do sell a luxury product in Lego. It's not the cheapest toy out there, but it's certainly the best quality. And what we noticed immediately was a very big uptake on Apple Pay. Now, I don't think, let's just say for argument's sake, we saw 10% sales in Apple Pay. I don't think that's a new 10%. I think maybe it's a new 4%, and there's an overlap with the other payment gateway. But that is really important for us to observe that. And also with sorry, I'm an iPhone user, so I'm not sure what it's called. If it's Android Pay or Google Pay. Google Pay. Sorry, thanks. Also an uptake on that as well. And I think again, retail is about lowering the barriers, making it easier for your consumer to transact with you. And it's not like when I was growing up in the 1980s. That retail was slow. Saturday afternoon, the shops closed, everyone went home, shops weren't open on a Sunday. Now you really got to fight for your customer to stay with you, because if you're not there, they'll go next door. So I think, this is a bit of a cliche, but ease of access. So we quite like the offering that Stitch has got with their various payment options. I think, and I stand open to correction, that there's a pay now, get now, pay later.
Buy now, pay later.
Buy now, pay later mechanism built in as well. I haven't actually gone and looked at the stats of how much of that we're doing.
For us, it's huge, hey? So
really?
So the brands we own, plus the clients we recommend, all of them crush it on buy now, pay later. And it's funny, I read a stat yesterday, and majority of people are now starting to use buy now, pay later options. And if I have to guess why, I think it's that the business is covering the interest.
Exactly.
So they actually save. However, the issue is that they're now buying more things that they probably don't need, and they're putting themselves in debt. I think I read for every 100 Rand a consumer gets, 61 Rand goes to paying loans back.
It's quite scary.
That is very scary.
Yeah.
But that is also the result of buy now, pay later options.
Yeah.
But that pain, let's say the product costs 3.5 grand, like that friend said that I wanted to buy.
Yeah.
If you had that option on your website, hypothetically speaking, I would have been cool. It's an extra, 1,000 Rand a week or 1,000 Rand every 2 weeks. And now the pain of taking that money out of my bank account is less. So you're still paying the same amount.
Yeah.
You're not paying any interest, but it's that psychological pain. And I think I like to just think in simple terms. Like, I'm a simpleton. You probably picked that up.
Not really.
So from my side, it's like when you were speaking, it's like, guys, just make it as easy as possible for people to give you money. That's what you're saying.
It is.
That's what you're saying. Is like, you'll be surprised how much better your business will do when you make it easy for people to give you money.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's a social responsibility as well in terms of providing too much credit. But I think that it's a different customer that goes into a mass retailer. Like we used to have the old furniture retailers where they overextend credit. We've seen lots of that.
Sure.
I think with a product like high fashion or Lego or brands in that kind of tier, I'd like to hope that the trap of the credit trap is less of a risk for the consumer than it is with necessities that are being offered on credit from mass retailers.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
I'd hope. Yeah.
Tell me something. So as we round off this conversation, and again, thanks for coming through. I'm just want to ask, there's a lot of people in the retail space, people who are dabbling in retail, starting 1 or 2 stores. We actually one of them. So we've got an online business that we co-founded in 2023. We've opened up our first retail location in Alberton. We're now looking at a second one in Clearwater. What advice and lessons can you maybe just share with the public? Anything top of mind? Doesn't have to be too complicated or too intense, but anything that you feel can add some value?
Is the question around if you're starting to get into retail?
Yeah, starting to get into retail. What are the things that you need to consider and just look at and be conscious and cautious of?
I think the biggest pitfall that I've seen is where someone goes into retail because they're passionate about a product. So I love coffee. I want to open a coffee shop. I'm going to bring in these fancy Italian coffee machines, and I'm going to be the new sommelier of coffee. And you oversell your idea to yourself.
Sure.
I think you've got to be quite pragmatic. I think that also we live in a country where there's a huge inherent amount of retail. There's a huge number of shopping malls. We know we have a shopping mall culture. I think that there's a difference to being in a smaller strip mall type shopping environment, or being in a big environment like a Canal Walk or a Sandton. You've got other malls like you mentioned, Clearwater or Cresta. So I think that you've got to really understand who your clientele is, and that mall can deliver for you for what you want. So it's interesting. One of the questions we get asked is, why do you only have 6 stores? Why don't you have 15? And it's because we've been very circumspect and very risk averse. Even though we like to think ourselves as entrepreneurial, we've been careful about the malls that we choose to meet the requirements to make a business sustainable, even with the brand as big as Lego. So we have the same discussion often with the mall management, with the leasing managers and with the asset managers, because they're like, come on, guys, you should be opening more and more stores. But you can also put yourself under a lot of pressure because you don't know if the public's going to respond to you and give you the volumes that you need.
Yeah, and those contracts and agreements, can come back and bite you in the butt if you're not getting the traffic that you expected. Yeah,
they're very binding. You're going to go sign a 3-year lease in a mall. Once you've signed that lease, you're there. And the due diligence that the mall goes through in order to do that lease with you is a very, I'm cautious to use the word onerous, but it's an involved process. You really got to know what you're doing. It's not straightforward.
Love it. Well, Rob, it was been such a pleasure getting to know you and chatting about, Lego specifically, and that you guys are a certified store. And thanks for bringing it to the country. It's been a real interesting conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be on your podcast. I hope I offered some value to your listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely added some value to me. In that case, I'm pretty sure you've added it to people watching and listening. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.